Right now in Brooklyn, there's a townhouse on Joralemon Street that looks perfectly normal. Red brick, Greek Revival facade, stone stoop. The kind of place you'd walk past 1,000 times without a second thought, except no one has ever lived there. Not in over 100 years. Behind those blacked-out windows, there are no rooms, no furniture, no stairs. Just a massive steel ventilation shaft dropping 5 stories straight into the subway tunnels below the East River. And this building is not unique. Across the United States, in cities you've visited, on streets you've driven, there are hundreds of structures that look like homes, offices, churches, and towers, but are completely fake. Their walls hide oil wells, electrical substations, sewer pumps, tunnel exhaust fans, and Cold War-era communications bunkers. Some have been operating in secret for over a century, and most people who live right next to them have no idea what's inside. This is the story of America's fake buildings, who built them, what they're hiding, and why some of them are now at the center of a public health crisis. The practice of disguising infrastructure goes back further than you might expect. In the early 1900s, as American cities exploded in population, engineers faced a new problem. The systems that kept cities alive, water, power, sewage, transit, needed physical structures above ground, ventilation shafts, electrical converters, pumping stations. But neighborhoods didn't want industrial machinery next to their homes. Property values were at stake, and residents pushed back hard. So engineers and city planners found a solution that was equal parts brilliant and deceptive. Hide the machinery inside buildings designed to blend in. The approach wasn't entirely new. 19th century pumping stations had already been designed to look like civic monuments. Their ornate facades communicated safety and reliability to the public. But what happened next was different. Instead of celebrating infrastructure, cities began to erase it from view entirely. In 1907, the Interborough Rapid Transit Company in New York purchased a private home at 58 Joralemon Street, gutted the interior completely, and converted it into a ventilation shaft for the subway tunnel running beneath the East River. The exterior was preserved to match the surrounding row of historic brownstones. According to records from the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, the cavernous interior once housed electrical equipment that converted alternating current to the 600-volt direct current needed to power the trains below. To this day, the New York City Transit Authority maintains the facade, including a set of black Lexan windows installed in 1999 as part of an agreement with the Landmarks Preservation Commission. The property was valued at $2.8 million as of 2010, for a building no one can live in. But here's what makes this more than a quirky New York story. The same logic, hide the infrastructure, keep up appearances, was applied in cities across the entire country. And in some places, the stakes were far higher than a subway vent. Let's move 3,000 miles west to Los Angeles. Most people associate LA with Hollywood, beaches, and traffic. What they don't know is that the city sits on top of one of the most productive urban oil fields in the United States. More than 9 billion barrels of oil have been extracted from the Los Angeles area. Even today, thousands of active wells continue to pump crude from beneath residential streets, shopping centers, and golf courses. The first successful well was drilled in 1892 by Edward Doheny near what is now a public swimming pool in Echo Park. By the early 1900s, oil derricks dotted the landscape like trees in a forest. That's how the Los Angeles Times described them in 1930. But as the city grew, and Hollywood and aerospace brought new industries and new residents, something had to change. You couldn't have pump jacks operating across the street from schools and synagogues, at least not visibly. So beginning in the 1960s, oil companies started disguising their operations. They wrapped active drilling rigs inside buildings designed to look like offices, churches, and residential towers. The Packard Well site on Pico Boulevard is a 7-story beige structure that looks, from the street, like a generic office building. It has no windows and no roof. Inside, more than 50 oil and gas wells are serviced by a derrick that moves on tracks from one wellhead to the next. Thousands of barrels are pumped every year while drivers pass by completely unaware. When it opened in 1968, visitors could actually walk through the lobby and watch the pumps. That access ended years ago. The building is now locked and gated. A few miles away, the Cardiff Tower drill site was designed in 1966 to look like a synagogue, complete with graceful white arches and flagstone walls. It sits in the heart of LA's historic Jewish neighborhood. Behind that facade, 40 active oil wells tap the same underground reservoir. And at Beverly Hills High School, students attended classes for decades next to a 165-foot tower wrapped in colorful vinyl murals painted by hospitalized children. It was called the Tower of Hope. Inside was an oil derrick producing hundreds of barrels a day. This wasn't a secret conspiracy. It was official policy. The mayor of Los Angeles at the time praised the Cardiff Tower as, and I quote from city records, an outstanding contribution to civic beauty. The aesthetic camouflage was seen as a solution, a way to keep the oil flowing without upsetting the neighborhoods. Off the coast of Long Beach, the deception went even further. In the 1960s, oil companies built 4 artificial islands using hundreds of tons of boulders and millions of yards of dredged material, then spent $10 million on what they called aesthetic mitigation, hiring a theme park architect who had worked on Disneyland to disguise active drilling platforms as a tropical resort. One critic described the result as part Disney, part Jetsons, part Swiss Family Robinson. But the buildings weren't just hiding machinery. They were hiding risk. In recent years, researchers at the University of Southern California conducted a door-to-door survey of over 800 residents living near active oil well sites in South Los Angeles. What they found was alarming. Asthma rates among people living near the wells were significantly higher than the county average. A follow-up study measuring the lung function of nearly 750 long-term residents found a direct relationship. The closer someone lived to an active or recently idle well, the worse their lung capacity, even after adjusting for smoking, asthma, and proximity to freeways. And here's the part that hits hardest. According to a 2025 Frac Tracker analysis, more than 80% of residents living within close proximity to these disguised well sites are people of color, many living below the poverty line. Los Angeles County has more residents living within 2,500 feet of active drilling sites than any other county in the United States. The fake buildings had done their job too well. They normalized something that should never have been normalized. Nearly half the people surveyed, 45%, didn't even know oil wells were operating nearby. And 63% didn't know how to contact local authorities to report odors or environmental hazards. The facades had made the danger invisible. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, a very different kind of deception was playing out. In New York, the windowless concrete tower at 33 Thomas Street in Lower Manhattan was built in 1969 by AT&T as a telephone switching center. The building was designed to withstand a nuclear blast. It has no windows. Its brutalist exterior is one of the most unsettling structures in the city. For decades, its purpose remained officially undisclosed. Then, in 2016, investigative journalists published documents suggesting the building was being used as a hub for a major surveillance program. The building's owner has never fully confirmed or denied the reports. In the Bronx, an entire row of townhouses at 415 Bruckner Boulevard, complete with windows, doors, and balconies, was constructed as a disguise for a Con Edison electrical substation. An interior design firm created the facade specifically to appease residents who objected to industrial infrastructure in their neighborhood. In New Jersey, sewage pumping stations are hidden inside buildings that look like colonial townhomes. In Prairie Village, Kansas, a property owner in 1963 paid $300,000 to build a fake house around a sewage pump station so convincingly that neighbors reported virtually no sewage smell for decades. Very few even knew it existed. The pattern is the same everywhere. The infrastructure must exist, but it must not be seen. And when the disguise works, accountability disappears along with the machinery. So where does this leave us? In January 2022, the Los Angeles City Council voted unanimously to ban new oil wells and begin phasing out existing ones over the next 20 years. The county followed with a similar measure. But in 2024, oil companies sued, and a court overturned the ordinance. As of early 2026, LA is working to pass a revised version. But in the meantime, the wells keep pumping, the facades keep standing, and the communities keep breathing the air. In New York, the fake brownstone at 58 Geralman Street has become something of an urban legend. It even inspired an online video game. But across the country, in cities most people would never suspect, hundreds of similar structures continue to operate. They ventilate tunnels. They convert electricity, they pump oil, they process sewage, they may even collect data. And they do all of it behind walls that say, "Nothing to see here." America has always been a country that builds big, but it's also a country that hides what it builds, sometimes for convenience, sometimes for aesthetics, and sometimes for reasons that the people living next door deserve to understand. The next time you walk past a building with blacked-out windows, no mailbox, and a door that never opens, you might want to look a little closer. If you found this investigation valuable, consider subscribing. We publish new videos every week, uncovering the structures America forgot or chose to forget. Next time, we're going underground, literally. There's a network beneath one of America's biggest cities that most engineers won't talk about on the record. You don't want to miss that one.